Hello and welcome to the Speed Reels. Last week we mentioned the exposure triangle, which consists of shutter speed, aperture and ISO. We went over shutter speed in what the hell is shutter speed, which you can watch over here. Yes. And today we're going to talk about the second part of the exposure triangle, which is aperture. Remember how we said last time that photos are formulated based on how much light goes into the camera and onto the sensor, and you can control that amount of light by controlling shutter speed. What if I told you there is another way to control light?
No.
Yes.
Witchcraft!
You can control it with aperture. Okay, aperture isn't working in my favor right now. This feels like something from 2008 YouTube. Aperture refers to the size of the opening in your lens that regulates the amount of light that goes through the lens and onto the sensor. Aperture helps you control your image in two ways. Wait, isn't that what shutter speed does? Yes. No. Okay, maybe. Well, it controls it in two ways. Brightness, for the lack of a better word, and it affects depth of field, which is the most interesting part. When it comes to brightness, it's pretty straightforward. The bigger the opening is, the more light goes in and the brighter your image is gonna be. And the smaller the opening is, the less light goes in and the darker your image is going to be. Now we get to the confusing part. The numbers. The numbers on your camera have an opposite correlation with the size of the opening. What does that mean? It means the bigger the number on your camera is, the smaller the size of the opening on your lens is, and the smaller the number is, the bigger the opening in your lens is. For example, f-stop, which is what we use to refer to aperture rating, f-stop 4.0 is actually bigger than f-stop 16. Every lens is labeled with what is the lowest aperture it can reach. And remember, lowest aperture meaning biggest opening, meaning more light. Now, remember how we said that aperture affects your photo in two different ways? With witchcraft. What? No. Get out. Stop confusing my audience. Aperture can affect your photo in two different ways, and we mentioned already how it affects it in terms of brightness. Now we're going to talk about the more interesting one, which is depth of field. You can have a deep or a shallow depth of field by playing around with your aperture. We said that the smaller the f-stop number is, the bigger the opening is and the more light it allows to go in. But it also means that you're going to have a shallower depth of field. While a bigger f-stop number is, the smaller the opening is, the less light it allows to go in. It'll also mean that you're gonna have a deeper depth of field in your image. Wait, you still don't get it? A visual learner, I see. Let's look at some images then. This image is the result of low aperture, meaning a shallow depth of field, where everything behind the subject of focus is, well, out of focus. While this image is the result of high aperture, meaning a deep depth of field. So everything behind the subject of focus is also in focus. Now that you know the basics of aperture, the best way for you to understand it is by applying it. So take out your camera and start experimenting with the different values of aperture to get the hang of it. Check out the shutter speed video to know how you can utilize it. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends that are pathetic when it comes to photography. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Behind the scene, yay, bonus footage. Let's go.